Hello and welcome to my channel, The Lifestyle Edit. My name is Megan. Thank you so much for being here today. I have decided, as I know several other people on social media have done, but I really wanted to take some time and reflect on 2025. And the year ended very busy with Christmas and New Year's. There just really wasn't what I thought was a good amount of time to really reflect on everything and take the time to really dive into, my camera reel, my videos from last year, my social media accounts, just anything that would help me really see what really went on last year. And so for me, I decided to take the beginning of January to really sit down and go through these things and reflect on them. And, I had some very beautiful moments last year, and I had a few that were also very difficult. And I thought that instead of doing a highlight reel, instead of showing you guys that everything is perfect, because it's very easy to do that on social media, that I would try and be a little bit more open and honest and more personal. I don't know how long you've been with me, but if you have been with my channel now for a little bit, you may know that it's challenging for me to share things that are very personal. I typically don't talk about my husband or, I do talk about our dogs occasionally. You'll see them more over on social media, but I don't even really talk about them much. I tend to keep things very private, and that is how I live my life. So, opening up on social media can be very difficult, and it's a challenge that I don't really confront very often. So I thought that I would take the time in this video to really show you that I am a real person and that I'm just kind of like everyone else. And I'm just looking to build a community so that we can help each other to feel better and to grow and to become better people. So I am going to share with you the different things that I experienced last year, from turning 40 to changes in myself, love, loss. There's also gratitude. So all the things that maybe you experienced or maybe you didn't last year, I am going to share some of those, and hopefully you will find that either relatable or inspirational. I'm not sure which, but whichever it is, I do hope that it brings you a little bit of comfort and just a little bit of peace, knowing that we're all going through something and you are not alone. As I look back on 2025, it really started with turning 40. And that is literal and figurative. And the reason I say that is because my birthday is in February. So, right at the beginning of the year, I turned 40. And I was very hesitant. I was very concerned about what that meant for me, what that meant for the journey I had had throughout my life up to that point, and how it was going to change me. You can hear people talk on social media or in movies or books or, anything fictional as well as nonfiction as to what it feels like to age. And some people are terrified of it and some people embrace it. And I really wanted to be the person who embraced it. And I think I did okay. It wasn't perfect, but I think I did relatively well because when it started, I didn't really feel anything different. 40 is just a number like any other number. As I said, I really didn't notice much of a difference, but as the year continued, I did start to notice some changes in my body. And I went to a couple of different doctors throughout the year, and I really just didn't feel like I was being seen or heard in a way that worked for me. So, if you have felt that, if you have been discouraged, I hope that I can encourage you to keep going, keep researching, keep looking into things. You just never really know what's going on. but no one knows your body better than you do. So if you really feel like there is something wrong, then I hope that you will continue to do the research and try to find the answers so that you can get back to feeling like yourself. I am still looking for answers. I am still working to try and do things to help myself feel better and to get to a place where I am more comfortable with my body and how I feel about myself. But that's not to say that, you know, that I'm upset with how I look or how I am or anything. I do want to feel more like myself. I just do want to feel a little healthier because I do feel like I've kind of hit a wall that I'm struggling to find someone who will listen. Most of the doctors that I go to, they just want to give me a prescription for a pill. Here you go. And that's not something I'm looking for. I want a little bit more direction than that. The second big thing that really happened, and this happened in the middle of last year, is that my husband retired. And I'm very happy for him, though I do wish he'd stop telling me he's retired. I know you get to come home, you get to be home and not set an alarm and kind of schedule whatever you want to do. But him being retired has changed our daily routines. I don't get up at the same time every day anymore. That probably affects my sleep and that probably affects other things. But I go into the office twice a week and then I'm home the rest of the week. So my office days, I tend to get up an hour earlier. The days I work from home, I can sleep in a little bit more and spend more time with the dogs and my husband. And he's been really great. He still gets up with me every day. He helps me with the dogs, taking them out, feeding them, things like that. Not to say that he won't go back to bed if he needs to. And he's been playing a lot more golf. So that's something that he's really wanted to do. He's been excited to be able to hang out with some of his friends and, just have more of that guy time that obviously he doesn't get with me. And it helps keep him active, which is what I'm happy about because, I definitely want him to stay healthy and, have it so that we can continue to go on trips and do things together and have a long time together. So, he does cook a lot more. He'll joke that he makes breakfast for me and that I'm very spoiled. And I'm not going to say that I'm not. He's been very wonderful, but he always does it with a joke. So, I have to kind of get used to that, but that's just his personality anyway. So it is great having him home more. If we want to do something, as soon as I get off work, we can go do it. He's not super tired. He's not just, so we are a little bit more active in doing things, I want to say. Over the holidays, it was great because he didn't have to work. I didn't have to worry about, taking specific time off. We could take a walk on my lunch break because I get an hour for lunch. So if I'm working, we could take the dogs on a 2-block walk. No, it's not far, and it probably wasn't even a mile or barely a mile, but it was still nice to get out in the sun. It wasn't super hot. And, we got some exercise. They got much needed exercise. So it was just kind of nice to be able to do that kind of stuff together. And, he has more opportunity to do stuff around the house. He likes taking care of the yard and things like that. There's not much to do right now because it's winter and nothing is really growing. He likes to be outside and taking care of things. And so now he has the ability to do that during the week. And then we can have our weekends to do things together. So it kind of helps with that as well, which is great. So we get more time together, which I love. Reflecting back, when I look at the beginning of the year where, I turned 40 and then my husband retired, a lot of these things, yes, they happened chronologically, but there are a few things that kind of overlapped. And one of those is that right before he retired, he actually found Junie. So if you are over on my social media or if you've seen some of my previous videos, we have a Labrador named Duke and we have a tricolor corgi named Charlie. And they are both roughly 3.5 now. They turned 4 this year. And my husband found a dog at work in the parking lot. She was running around, and after work, he took her to the vet, and they checked her for a chip. There was no chip. We posted her all over social media locally, as best we could on any of the, local city and county sites. We called the SPCA, the Humane Society. He took her to a few other vets to see if anyone had, reached out looking for a dog with her description. And none of that came to fruition. Nobody reached out, and we have now taken her in. She has become a much loved part of our family, and she is a tricolor corgi. Now, she has much less tan on her than Charlie does. She's a lot more black and white, and I'm going to put a picture up here of her because she's asleep right now, so I'm not going to disturb her and bring her up here. She is still adjusting, but she is doing so well. She is very much a love. She loves to cuddle and snuggle, especially at bedtime. She is usually right around my head, and she'll put her head right here on my shoulder. In the mornings during the week when my alarm goes off, and I always hit snooze at least once. I know I'm very bad. You're not supposed to do that. But she'll know, oh, okay, it means to get up, and she will slide down and start giving me kisses and start shifting around. Sometimes she kind of tries to roll over on her back, and it smothers me. She is the funniest little thing. We named her after the month when she was found. So she's just, we call her Junebug. She's just the cutest little thing. So we're very happy to have her, and she's brought so much love and light into the house. And it really, she really has become my husband's dog. And I don't know if it's because he found her and made her feel safe after being on her own, which we don't know how long she was on her own, but she has definitely chosen him as her person. When he's home, she is his shadow. And typically the other dogs follow me around. So it's very funny to see that, when he would come home from work, the dogs would run after him, and 5 or 10 minutes later, then they'd come back and lay at my feet while I was working or whatever. So it's fun to see her, following him around and stuff like that. And when he retired, I think it was really good for them too, because they got to spend more time together and bond. And so it really helped him. He really hadn't felt a close connection with our other dogs since Jake passed away a couple of years ago. He was my husband's first Labrador, and we call him the OG. And he really was the perfect dog from what I remember. I mean, things happen, and, no one really thinks about anything negative. There's some great funny stories, but, Jake was the OG, and my husband really had a hard time after we lost him, and finding Junie was kind of like he found a little part of himself again. And it's been really great to see and watch them together. And, at the time, I don't think we realized how much we needed her, because a few months later, we lost Casey. This is my gosh, it's like a stitch portrait that my friend did. I ordered a custom piece, and so she did this one of Casey, and Casey was 15 and a half, and we were very fortunate that she was around that long. And it really, I think her loss really affected me more than I thought that it would. It was just really, really hard, even though we were expecting it. At some point we knew it would happen. It just really, really affected me. And I think sometimes I'm still grieving for her. It's really hard, not having her. She's been around for so long, and she's just been such a big part of the family. She was the most affectionate, and she was the one who she would talk a lot of smack um, when it would get close, I say when it would get close to 5, but eventually it could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon and she would start grumbling because she was hungry. And it's like, okay, baby girl, it's not quite 5 o'clock yet. And she didn't care. She loved to sit outside in the sun. She would just sit in the grass and just soak up that sunlight. She loved it. Um, she enjoyed going to the beach, but she preferred to lay on the beach. She didn't so much like being in the water and playing. But, she was a great companion and I loved having her around. And, it was really hard. And it really made me stop and spend more time with Duke and Charlie and Junie and just make sure that I'm not just, it's made me slow down and really pay attention to how I talk to them and how I treat them. And I don't want you to think that I was a bad dog parent or that I yelled at the dogs all the time or anything like that. But I think anytime when you have a loss, it gives you a chance to stop and reflect and think, could I be doing something differently? And for me, it was spending more time with them. So in the mornings, I make sure to take as much time as I can to spend with them before I have to get ready for work or on my lunch breaks. I try not to be on my phone. I try not to be on social media. I don't watch TV at lunch. If I can take them on a walk, if I can play with them, that's really the most fun. And so that has been really great. And, I don't want this to sound silly, and maybe it is. But, when there's loss, sometimes, you're just looking for why. You're looking to understand. And I told my husband that Junie may have been led to him by Jake because Jake knew that, Casey was going to join him soon over the Rainbow Bridge. And while I don't know if that's true or not, I'd like to think that it's true. It definitely gives me comfort. And, I think that, having Junie here has really helped remind us how fortunate we are and to just help us, it just shows us how much more love we really have. And we don't have to, stop or bottle it up or anything like that. So, Casey will always have a special place in our hearts, and we will probably always have dogs because, that's what my husband wants. And I love dogs. It would be very hard to say no or turn one away. So, but Junie's been a great addition and they all get along better now. It has taken some time. Charlie has, she had softened and really kind of let Junie take charge. And then I think she realized that Junie was a little more aggressive than she should have been. So they've kind of come to a good medium. And I like to, in the mornings, they really kind of go at it. They're not aggressive in the fact where they're hurting each other. They just play hard. And I like to call it the world wrestling of corgis because sometimes they get a little loud and a little rambunctious, but it's so funny to watch them. And it's great to see that they've found that balance for each other to be able to play. And then, they play with Duke as well. And, I'm just glad they don't gang up on him because he doesn't deserve that. So, but yeah, so one of the reasons why Casey's passing was very difficult for me, and it was for my husband too. I don't want to take anything from that, but I can't speak for him, is that we were actually away on vacation when she passed. And, I really struggled. We'd had this trip planned for a long time. We were going to be gone for a couple of weeks. Losing her during our trip really kind of changed the focus of our trip. It happened toward the end of our trip. So, this trip for us was really important because it was a celebration of several different milestones. It was in part celebration of my 40th birthday. It was a celebration of my husband's retirement. It was also our honeymoon, because when we got married the year before, we didn't go on a honeymoon. So this was partly that. But at the same time as being a celebration of our honeymoon, it was also a celebration of our 1 year anniversary, which was coming up just a couple of months after that. So we kind of, celebrated many milestones with this trip. And we went to, a couple of different countries, and we got to see things and do things that we hadn't done before. We met some very lovely people while we were there. We stayed at some great places, and we ate some great food and made some good friends. And it's just something that was so important for us to do and for us to do together. And I'm so thankful for the time that we had. And it really helped remind me to slow down. Casey taught me that I needed to slow down and spend more time with our dogs in general. And this trip reminded me to slow down and just appreciate what I have right now. You never know when something's going to change. You never know what may happen tomorrow. And so taking even a few minutes, whether it's in the morning, whether it's at the end of the day, and just reflecting on, what I have and, what I'm thankful for, is such an important thing for us to do. It's so easy to get caught up in the negative. It's so easy to watch the news or doom scroll on social media and see all of the negative things that are going on out there, things that we probably don't understand, that we may never understand, because we're only getting bits and pieces. We're only getting what they want to tell us. And that's not to say that there isn't important information and that we aren't given some information, but I do also feel like we only get certain things. And so, this trip really reminded me to slow down and appreciate what's going on around me, appreciate what I have, because it could be more difficult. It could be, worse. There could be some very devastating things that, I have to deal with, or that someone in my family is dealing with. And, I've been very blessed and very fortunate. Not sure if it was a plane going by or the neighbor was doing something, but there was a bang, and she needed to quiet down. So Junie has joined the party. Woo! So the trip was really important because we did need that time together. We did want to celebrate those big milestones. And, we just wanted to have that quality time together. It's so easy to get stuck in that mundane day-to-day, routine. And while there's nothing wrong with routine, and I love having a routine because that's my personality, sometimes you do have to shake it up a little bit. And it reminded me, that my husband and I had stopped having date night once a week. And so, I really wanted to get back into doing that, because every day felt like we were on a date, we were on vacation. It was just the two of us. We didn't have to worry about getting up early for the dogs, or, when they needed to go out. Not that I would ever trade them for anything, but it was nice to just be able to focus on us. And I know that they missed us, and it was really hard because we really missed them. So, but I think the perspective of remembering to slow down and, take the time for each other and, have that time to connect with one another is really important. And, we don't want to wait to do that once a year or every 2 to 3 years, depending on the size of the trip and things like that. So, that's been really, really important. As I sit here now talking to you, what stands out to me most about the last year isn't a specific moment, but it's the perspective of remembering to slow down and really pay attention. Um, 2025 taught me that both joy and grief can exist in the same space at the same time. And it can be really hard. And I think that if I had to use one word to describe 2025, I might use the word bittersweet. And I've really come to look at this word in a more beautiful way because, life is a balance of good and bad, positive and negative, light and dark. And I think that bittersweet is a very simplistic way of describing those things. Maybe too simplistic because everything can be more complex. But I think when you get down to it, it can be that simple of just being, bittersweet. And, we had the sweet moments of, celebrating my birthday. I hit a milestone, going on a beautiful vacation that I never dreamed I would be able to go on. And, finding this little love bug and being able to call her ours and bringing her, into our space and into our family. And then, there were some very difficult times with, the loss of a loved one. Casey was such a pillar in our lives, and it's been very difficult. And, there are lessons in positive and negative things and good and bad. And so slowing down and paying attention is definitely something that I will take with me into the next year. And, you know, and really hopefully be able to appreciate that. Um, my plan is to walk into the next year with a little more awareness, a little more tenderness towards myself, and just a deeper appreciation for the life I have, because I couldn't have imagined where I would be today. My life could have gone in a million different directions, as I'm sure most people's could. And, I just hope that I continue to make the best decisions for myself and my family. A lot of times when it comes to decisions, you do have to, make those decisions with someone else. It's not always on your own. It's not always just about you, but sometimes there are things where it kind of feels like it's just about you. And so it's important to remember to take that step back and look at that perspective of, yes, this affects me and it's central to me, but it does have that domino effect of affecting other people. So it's important to make sure that you're looking at the big picture. And then, if you're watching this and you are still, trying to process your own year, I hope that that this time with me reminds you that there's no time limit on reflection. You can reflect on last year anytime that you're ready. You may not be ready yet. Maybe something happened toward the end of the year that was very difficult, and you're just not ready to look back at last year. Maybe last year was just very difficult in general throughout the year, and you're still trying to process that, and you're still trying to, gain insight on that. There's no rush. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no, perfect way or exact way that you have to do that. So, please don't rush into the next thing. Make sure that you're taking the time to be true to yourself, and, find the time to reflect when you're ready. That's important. And lastly, I just want to thank you for being here and spending this time with me. And, um, it was nice to be able to reflect back on the last year in a gentle way, in a quiet way, without making it seem like I'm just trying to do a highlight reel of everything that happened, or, here's all the great things. I really wanted to take the pressure off feeling like I had to be perfect. I try not to put that pressure on myself. I know that I do. I am a perfectionist. I always have been. And so to be able to sit here and to openly talk to you and, stutter here or there or say the wrong word or the wrong name or whatever, and, not gloss over that, not cut that out, is really important for me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for, taking the time. If you're a new viewer, leave me a comment. Let me know where you're from, or how you found my channel. If you are looking to reflect, or if you've done reflection on 2025, leave me a comment and let me know, something that you've learned. Maybe it will help resonate with someone else or even myself. I love reading your comments. I don't get a lot. We're a small community, but for the people that do comment, I do my very best to always respond and to take the time to read them and reflect on them. So I just hope that until the next video that you'll remember to be kind to yourselves, to be kind to others. And my next video is going to be a gentle reset for 2026. So I hope that you will subscribe and join me next time. Bye.